China's top decision makers have unveiled reform guidelines for the next decade at the end of a key meeting of the CPC Central Committee. The 205-member Central Committee has met behind closed doors to discuss deepening China's reforms for the coming years. The statement, which represents a wide swathe of the party and society, sets the tone for how the world's second biggest economy will deepen reforms to the new stage after first being implemented more than 3 decades ago.
China's blueprint for the next decade. Entrusted by the Political Bureau of the CPC Central Committee, Xi Jinping, the General Secretary of the CPC Central Committee, has delivered a work report at the third plenary session of the 18th CPC Central Committee, where he unveiled China's development guidelines. During his keynote speech at the Plenum, Xi Jinping stressed that the CPC has worked to speed up the development of a socialist market economy, democracy, cultural development, social harmony, and environmental protection. The reform guidelines affirm the work accomplished by the Communist Party's political bureau since the 18th CPC National Congress, which took place late last year. Faced with a complicated global environment and pressures for domestic reforms and a more efficient development path, the party's political bureau has upheld the spirit of the 18th CPC National Congress, leading the Chinese people in successfully constructing a socialist economy. The Bureau has also been striving to ensure that the Chinese people enjoy the fruits of development. A statement by Xi Jinping also highly values the success of the reform and opening up policy, which was first introduced at the third plenum of the 11th CPC Central Committee back in 1978. After analyzing major issues surrounding the need to deepen reforms, the statement affirms that reform and opening up has been a successful revolution led by the CPC in the new era. It also adds that reform and opening up will decide the destiny of modern China and will be key to ensuring the country adapt to rapidly changing world. The statement concludes with the need to deepen reforms in order to build a moderately prosperous society in a strong and democratic country, as well as realize the Chinese dream of national rejuvenation. The session says the overall goals of comprehensively deepening reforms are to develop and improve socialism with Chinese characteristics and to promote the modernization of the system and ability in managing the nation. Systematic and coordination of reforms are required to quicken the development of the socialist market economy, democratic politics, advanced culture, social harmony, and ecological civilization. We should let labor, knowledge, technology management, and capital unleash their dynamism. Let all sources of wealth spread and let all people enjoy more fruits of development in an equitable manner. In deepening economic reforms, the session says the market should play a decisive role regarding allocation of resources. We should improve the basic economic mechanism, quicken the development of the modern market system, macroeconomic control, and opening up. This requires changing the economic development form and building an innovation-driven country to promote the effectiveness and sustainability of economic development. In terms of political reforms, the meeting requires ensuring that the people are the masters of their own fate under the leadership of the Communist Party. We should insist on governing the country by law. For cultural reform, what's needed is to improve the cultural management mechanism and build a modern cultural service system. Improving people's livelihoods requires deepening the income system reforms and promoting common prosperity. This requires a modern mechanism of people and nature developing harmoniously together. The session says the Communist Party should make its leadership more scientific and democratic. The party must also be in the vanguard and clean to provide political support for opening up and socialist modernization. The session stresses that China is in the early stage of socialism, and development is the key to solving China's problems. We must center on economic development, and the key is to balance the relationship between government and the market. The session also says we must follow the experience in the opening up, and most importantly, we should stick to the party's leadership and socialist road with Chinese characteristics. We must learn from other countries' experiences and encourage both theoretical and practical innovation. We must rely on the people in deepening reforms and promote the overall development of the people. By 2020, the session calls for decisive achievements in important areas and systematic and effective mechanisms. The third plenum stresses the importance of consolidating the public sector by allowing state-owned companies to take a leading role in the economy. It stresses the need to support and guide the development of the private sector by encouraging creativity. In addition, China needs to improve property protection and actively develop a mixed economy and improve modern corporate systems. The session also proposes to build a unified and open market system with orderly competition and allow the market to play a decisive role in resources allocation. China needs to accelerate forming a modern market system in which enterprises operate independently and compete fairly. The focus should be given to clearing market barriers and improving the efficiency and fairness of resources allocation. It also stresses the need to establish fair, open, and transparent market rules for the market to decide prices, to build a unified land market between urban and rural areas, and finally to deepen technological innovation. The plenum highlights the need for sound macroeconomic policies and efficient governance. In doing so, it says China needs to transform government functions, deepen institutional and administrative reforms, enhance trust in the government, and build a service-oriented government. Tax and fiscal reforms are also a big focus. The plenum agrees that China must improve legislation, transparency, and efficiency in order to build a modern fiscal system. The plenum also proposes to form a new type of urban-rural relationship to let farmers take part in the modernization process and share the benefits. It states the dual rural and urban structure has been an obstacle for integration. This can be achieved through the development of new agricultural management system and empowering farmers with more property rights. The plenum says China must promote internal and external openness. By both going global and attracting overseas investment, China needs to promote deep market integration and adopting a leading role on the international stage. China needs to relax investment access, speed up the development of free trade areas, and expand inland China's openness to the world. The session also stresses the importance of developing socialist democratic politics and developing grassroots democracy. It proposes to deepen judicial reforms by constructing an efficient and authoritative socialist judicial system to safeguard people's interests. The session notes the key to putting power in a cage is to institutionalize the management of power, affairs, and people, and to let the public participate in the supervision of power. This means a system of power administration that is scientific and well-supervised, and another system that punishes and prevents graft. The session holds that there are certain criteria for establishing China as a socialist cultural power and enhancing its soft power. The country must go forward in the direction of an advanced socialist culture, on the path of the cultural development of socialism with Chinese characteristics. China should also improve its cultural management system, establish a modern public cultural service system, and improve its cultural openness. For more equitable distribution of the benefits of development, the country needs to speed up reform in social affairs and education and set up a system to create more job and business opportunities and a reasonable, orderly income distribution system. A National Security Committee has been proposed to improve the national security system and strategy. Protecting China's ecosystem requires a comprehensive system. Specific actions include a compensation mechanism and environmental protection management mechanism. The importance of innovation in terms of national defense and the military was stressed. This applies to military theories and improving military strategies and policies, which are key to building a modern military system with Chinese socialist characteristics. To improve the party's leadership and governing ability, a leading group is to be set up for the general design of reform. The session stressed the need for all party members to focus their actions and thoughts on the Central Committee's major decisions and plans on comprehensively deepening reforms. The session calls on all party members to unite closely around the Party Central Committee with Xi as the General Secretary. Together, they will write a new chapter for China's reform and opening up efforts, build a moderately prosperous society, achieve new victories in building a socialist country with Chinese characteristics, and achieve the China dream of rejuvenating the great Chinese nation.
Well, our reporter Zhang Nini has been listening to all that, and she's been following the plenum since it began on Saturday, and it's good to have you with us, Nini. There's certainly a wide-ranging roadmap there and a lot of information to digest. Tell us about the highlights of the communique from your aspect of covering this plenum.
Well, hello, Edwin. This communique is indeed an overarching guidelines for China's reform. In the future, it sets the tone and agenda for China's development in the coming decade or more. And to continue this reform, the CPC has decided to resolutely remove any structural and systematic barriers. And they have also recognized the importance of a systematic, comprehensive and coordinated approach to carry out these reforms. And on the economic side, the CPC decides to deepen the socialist market economy, where let the markets play a decisive role in allocating resources, and that means reducing the government's role in the economy, while also giving enterprises more freedom to operate and more opportunities. About the much talked about SOE reform, unfortunately, it does not come out today. According to the communique, the SOE will remain the pillar of the economy, where the diverse sectors are encouraged to develop side by side. And another much talked about issue is the urbanization process, and this communique recognized that China's current urban-rural dual system is hindering the development of the rural economy and also slowing down the urbanization process. So more measures are likely to be taken to address this issue. While traditionally the third plenum papers usually targets on economic development, this one, however, also emphasized the need to build an equitable society based on the rule of law. It has emphasized the need to deepen reform in the judiciary system. The goal is to set up a fair, efficient and authoritative system, and again emphasize the need to establish a checks and balances for government's power and putting power in the cage of a system. And the paper has also highlighted other areas of reform, such as in tax and fiscal systems, income distribution, party building, environment, and so on. So this document is some sort of general guideline for China's reform, but the details have not been revealed yet. Another document called the decisions on major issues concerning the comprehensive deepening reform which has also been approved at third plenum, is likely to carry the specifics for these reforms, and this document is expected to come out at a later date. Edwin.